them from you, bitch!
Your move, creep.
Hello and welcome to another spin of the Wheel of Cheddar. On these special episodes, my guest has chosen to leave fate in the hands of the wheel of 40 movies of straight up bargain bin bangers as we try and separate the good, the bad, and the cheesy from the lesser known movies of the 80s and 90s. Joining me this time is returning guest all the way back from episode 2 is friend of the show, Ariel Powers-Schaub. So welcome back, Ari. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No worries. It's been a while since we've had you on. We were back in episode 2, so we talked about a little bit about Police Story.
Yes.
So since then, and you're obviously quite new. I think we spoke about way back then that you're a little bit new to action movies. You're kind of finding your feet and finding your way with a little bit Jackie Chan, etc. So
hmm
since then, have you sort of delved further into the world of action?
Well, since we last talked, I watched the movie Speed for the first
Oh my
time.
god!
Yeah,
Wow.
that movie is so fun. I think that villain walked so Jigsaw could run.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that was a blast. I've heard Speed 2 isn't as good, but I'll probably watch it at some point.
Yeah, I think it's worth a watch just for Willem Dafoe being the bad guy, and again being he was in his sort of Green Goblin esque era at that point, so he was quite madcap. Obviously, producer of the show Petros and it's the For You podcast. He'll
Mhm.
champion that film to his dying day. But yeah, I think it's worth it. But Speed, yeah, I got to see that earlier on this year at Forbidden Worlds. So it must be quite an interesting thing to see that film for the first time, and it's a massive, massively well respected movie. What did you kind of make
Mhm.
of it as a big kind of tentpole 90s action movie?
I enjoyed the hell out of it. I kind of knew about it
Mm,
going in just because it's such a cultural
yeah.
touchstone. But to actually watch it play out was still really entertaining. And, even though you kind of know the end of what's coming, it's still
Yeah,
really tense.
yeah, and it's obviously been lampooned about a million times.
Yeah.
The 50, going over 50, and the bus thing. It's always been somebody's been, putting to comedy shows, like Father Ted over here in the UK and some other kind of Family Guy and so forth in
hmm
America, and obviously, but yeah, it's an interesting one. And what do you kind of make of Keanu Reeves as an action? Obviously, we now with John Wick, he's such a kind of cultural phenomenon in terms of action now, but
hmm
even then, obviously with the Matrix as well, it's in the 90s. What did you sort of make of him as sort of like this kind of leading man action movie guy?
I thought he was compelling. I've started saying pop quiz hot shot in my
Yeah.
regular life. It's just such a good phrase. And I've never seen a single John Wick movie, and I think like next time I have like a vacation or a chunk of time, I'm gonna just binge all of them because they've got to be incredible.
Yeah, I went to see the first one again just last week in the cinema. It was like a late night showing thing, but
hmm
it was sort of scuppered by the beginning. The person came out and said, "Oh, has anybody else never seen John Wick before?" And this kind of couple right beside me were like, "No, I've never seen it." An older couple, maybe in their 50s, maybe.
Okay.
And then they talked the whole way through the movie because I think they were just
Oh.
in the cinema we were in. It's almost like a bar. Place
Okay.
called Everyman, and it's like sort of like it's kind of like a swanky bar, cocktail bar, but it's got a cinema in it almost. It's kind of that sort of vibe. And I think they were just really pie-eyed. So, but I still love. I mean, I love those movies. So I would definitely recommend that you check them out. Like I did my deep dive after we spoke about the Fast and the Furious, and I think
hmm
I would encourage you to go out and check the John Wick film. I have not actually seen the fourth one now, which I,
Okay.
I really feel I'm gonna hold my hands up here. But it's like 3.5 hours long, so it's a bit of
Oh
a task to
boy.
jump into. So, but yeah, I love my boy Keanu. And also, we talk about a little bit Jackie Chan as well. Have you
hmm
checked any other Jackie Chan films recently, or
No, I haven't. I did watch another Hong Kong action film, not with Jackie Chan, since the last time we talked. I watched Hard Boiled.
oh yes, 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 yes,
That was fun as well. That was a riot.
yeah. I'm very jealous that you got to see that for the first time because that last, sort of like half an hour, 40 minutes is just
Oh my
insane.
god. In the hospital with all the babies, I was just like, what is going to happen here? That was a lot of fun. I'm really glad because I wasn't like that compelled by the description of it,
Mm.
but everybody said like, "No, you got to watch this. It's great." And that is true.
Yeah, I think it's one of these movies that needs to be seen. It's and definitely is, and the kind of things like obviously John Wick and stuff now, and obviously like transporter movies maybe as well, and also like it's it was almost like as I spoke about before, the 80s and 90s, that Hollywood in the kind of 80s, Hollywood was sort of the big thing, and then that was kind of the focus of everyone was going to try to become a copy in Hollywood and
Mm.
making kind of big blockbuster action movies, but then in the 90s it kind of swapped over after Hardboiled. I think they were like, right, they've put that kind of stamp on it and said like, right, okay, follow that and just make sure that we can
Mm.
now we've set the standard now. So it's really interesting. Obviously, then you got John Woo coming over to do like Face Off and Hard Target, and then
Yeah.
all manner of like and then we get obviously then the Matrix kind of takes off from the slow motion of that and the sort of
Oh
the big
yeah.
fights with that as well. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think Hardboiled is, if not nobody's watched it in the audience before, you've not checked it out, definitely check it out because it's a very, very fun movie. A lot of the
Yes.
John Wayne movies are really fun. The Killer as well is another one we can, I would heartily recommend. So, okay, without a bit further ado, Ari, what we're going to do is we're going to mention at the top of the show that you took the gamble.
Yes.
Being a previous guest, I insist that the next time you come on, we will spin the wheel. And we spun the beautiful Wheel of Cheddar, and it's given us 1995's Expect No Mercy, starring Billy Blanks. So, Ari, we'll go into a little bit of plot here in a second, but what was your initial reaction to the choice from this wheel? What did you expect? Excuse me, pardon the pun, from Expect No Mercy, based on that kind of box art alone? What did your
Yeah.
first sort of thoughts of what you're going to be entering into?
Well, yeah, I had never heard of this movie before when it came up on the wheel. So I didn't know what to expect. I was like, okay, we're mid 90s.
Hmm.
Billy Blanks I had only known from his kickboxing like Taibo workout DVDs
Yes,
that were
yes,
really
yes.
hot in the 2000s.
Yes,
I
yes.
was like, "Oh, Billy Blanks did more than that. I didn't know." Um and then I learned that it was related to a video game. I can't remember if the video game came first or second, but I was like, "Okay, so it's gonna kinda be video gamey," and you could kinda
Yes.
tell just from, like, the trailer that there's gonna be a lot of CGI, and so I was kinda like, "I think this is really different than the action movies I've seen before where, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
Hong Kong action movies have a lot of stunts or, like, Nick Cage action movies have, like, big set pieces with a lot of
Mm.
silliness." I was like, "I think this is gonna be different than what I'm used to," and that was true, and I was like, "Let's just see what this is all about."
Did you kind of expect a little bit less of a budget, a little bit more of a maybe less of a sort of a fanciful sort of plot? I would say.
Yeah. Well, especially because I didn't recognize a lot of the actors other than
Mm.
Billy Blanks and maybe a couple other people who I was kind of like, oh, I've seen them and stuff before, but it wasn't like a lot of big names. And it seemed more like we want to showcase video game graphics than anything
Yes.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 definitely. I mean, like you mentioned a second ago, you don't really have a lot of big name actors. You
Mhm.
have Laurie Holden, which is who's in The Walking Dead.
Mhm.
She plays the sort of main sort of female protagonist and sort of a little bit of like the maybe the love interest in this movie. But yeah, apart from that, it's Billy Blanks is sort of like has his on these kind of his massively muscly shoulders for this whole movie. So it's quite interesting. But yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, I'd not watched it before I got the Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome, but it's you don't know what to expect, but it's interesting. I think we'll go a little bit more into that in a little second. So let's give the listeners a little bit of a little bit of the plot synopsis. So a federal service agent is assigned to infiltrate a mysterious academy where a maniacal leader trains assassins to become more efficient killing machines through virtual reality. So it's part Lawnmower Man, part Mortal Kombat, but is it mostly good? So, Ari, what did you make of Expect No Mercy?
So it's a really interesting experience for me because I've watched this movie twice, Larry. As
Mm.
you know, we had to reschedule this recording a couple times.
Yes,
So
yes,
I watched the movie again.
yes.
And both times I watched this movie, I was like, I don't understand what is happening. And, like, I was paying attention, I wasn't dinking around on my phone, and even the second time I was like, "I'll take notes. This
Yes.
will help me." And
Hmm,
even
hmm.
my notes are like the ramblings of a madwoman because,
Yeah.
like, I can't keep track of anybody's name. I think a lot of the characters look similar, which is maybe just,
Mm.
the fashion of the time sort of just,
Yes.
washing over for me. And I was just kinda like, I don't even know if the characters have really grasped the plot of this film, but it definitely is a fun movie to watch. Like, there's a lot of, good cheesy one-liners. There's, some good slow motion, like, shooting scenes, attack
Yeah.
scenes. There's the, computer-generated villains are really silly and fun, and the sound effects that go with them are very video gamey. So it definitely is a fun movie to watch, but, like, I couldn't really tell you what happened in it. There's a villain with a beautiful mullet,
Hmm, hmm.
and there's Billy Blanks, and they square off.
I mean, that is most of the movie. Now, there is obviously we have the obviously Billy Blanks kind of gone into this academy. This academy is has sort of machinations of taking over the world in some sort of way. So they are ordered by sort of this unseen sort of guy, but obviously trained by Wolf Larson, the name of the character, which is an amazing name for
It's
a
a
person. I
great
think
name. Oh,
if you're
yeah.
going to be called anything in the '90s as an action star, I think Wolf. I've actually, strangely enough, I started watching him recently, seen him in a previous episode, Hard Ticket to Hawaii, which again doesn't have it as a barely any plot. Again, just a very cheesy kind of '90s sort of, was a late '80s action movie with just paper thin plot, borderline porn.
Okay.
Boobs anytime they can sort of justify it, but I also started watching him, and I found a strange sort of I should say '90s TV show that we then called LA Heat,
Mm.
with the guy that was like the second Deep Throat in X Files, and it's very interesting.
Oh.
But I think, yeah, they have this sort of cabal thing where they train these, instead of just training them in normal martial arts, they're training them in these sort of virtual reality, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter.
Mhm.
But there's like sometimes there's a clown, and
Right.
sometimes it's like like a ninja master, but there doesn't seem to be like a proper through line. But you do see, obviously there's a lot of there's a lot of, it's high concept, but maybe not really having the budget to go forward with that. Would you agree that it has high kind of thoughts of being this interesting sort of like cyber, as we were in the
Yes.
'90s, we're getting into virtual reality, becoming a sort of a big thing. As I just mentioned with the lawnmower man, but maybe this movie doesn't really, maybe suffers from being a bit too ambitious. Would you say?
Yeah, I would. There's definitely it's reaching to make commentary about certainly like the implications of technology and how do we use that in our everyday life and also like to make our lives better. It has commentary on the government. There's a really
Mm,
wonderful line where the villain says, "The government kills people every day. Why can't I?" And then the beautiful blonde woman says, "Because you're not the government." And I was like, they thought they were doing something there, but they didn't quite nail
yeah,
it.
yeah, they're cooking with
Um,
something there.
yeah, it's certainly ambitious. The computer generated like opponents. It looks like they went to the party store and got every like Halloween costume
Yes.
prepackaged in a bag and said like, "Okay, you're the clown and you're the samurai and you're whatever." And it's just sort of like they go through all the different Halloween costumes and fight
Mm,
them.
yeah, they've went into Party City, and they've
Yes.
went like, right, so what sort of villainous sort of roles we can get? Oh, we've got a ninja there. Okay, yeah, so we'll get ninja guy. We'll get sort of our barbarian sort of Conan guy. We'll
Yes.
get like a clown. They've just went into the
Yep,
bargain
just a
bucket. We're like, right,
clown.
just quickly get something at the last minute. They're like the costume designs have went in, and that's no slight on the costume design in this movie, but because Billy Blanks looks amazing in this movie.
Oh my god. Can
I
we
mean, I
bring
think,
back men in crop t-shirts?
yeah, and
I'm
like sort of
ready.
just, yeah, big baggy tracksuit pants,
Yeah.
backwards leather caps. I
Why
mean, just
not?
impeccable. I mean, his dress sense in this is just the whole. I've got multiple notes saying, Billy Blank's dress sense impeccable. No shirt, shiny see-through trunks,
Yep.
peach jumpsuits, baseball caps, just amazing. I think he's definitely walked in and went, right, okay, like if I'm gonna look anything, I need to look the most stylish person in this movie. And I just think
Mhm.
he just impeccable taste. I think the costume design for that, let's champion that side of it. Not so much the
Absolutely.
the Party City Halloween costumes that they've bought for like £5 or something, whatever, maybe. They're very interesting. But so I think going through the kind of watch the sort of the behind the scenes stuff, it does seem like a bit of a labour of love for
Yes.
the movie. They have put a lot of thought into it, and they do sort of echo that with Jalal Mary, who plays Eric in the movie. Sort of I think he's Serbian Canadian, which is an interesting sort of mix as well. Like so, he has
Yeah.
this very French accent, but sort of like the sort of very exotic name as well, which is really interesting. But well, not Eric. I mean Jalal Mary. Eric's not a very exotic
Mhm.
name, but but he also produced the movie, and he does kind of say that that's even though his parts of it, Billy Blanks is like all the way through the country is like, yeah, it's just so much fun to get to all these cool scenes, and Jalal Mary's like, yeah, but like the dollar signs, I want this and this, and he's like very dry. I mean, no
Yeah.
no offense to Jalal Mary, but he's a very dry man now that very focused on excuse me money and very focused on the sort of the box office numbers he wanted to make for
Mm.
the movie rather than Billy Blank's like fighting great. I like to view the fighting, and that was it. And I had to kick my brother in the face, which we'll talk about a little bit in the future. So well, now not normally Ari, I would normally take you to a trip to the trivia zone. But over on the Wheel of Cheddar, we like to keep it a little bit knockoff. So welcome to the facts realm.
Okay.
I'm terrible. I'm sorry, but
No, it's good.
that's a good one. Uh, you don't know, you don't understand how many hours I spent trying to find something that's really funny as that, and that's
I
what we've
think you
got.
nailed
So,
it.
thank you, I appreciate that. So we talked a little bit about the computer generation of this movie. So it took 26 computers, 6 days to digitize the computer effects for this film, and I
Wow.
mean I don't know if that's a good thing or is that 26 computers, 6 days to make this. I mean, let's kind of touch on quickly about the opening credits to this movie,
Oh, yes.
which
Yeah.
don't have any real basis about fighting. It's like a truck going through sort of
Mhm.
like this sort of digital city, and then it runs into the camera, which is admittedly quite cool. And then it's, on the grill it says "Expect no mercy," but
Yeah.
there's no like trucks or there's maybe a little bit of there's a jeep maybe later on
Yeah.
in the movie, but there's no trucks going through the city. So it's all filmed on fucking David Carradine's ranch, where I'm find I don't know what the fuck was up to in that ranch, but it's certainly strange. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense for this movie. It's just sort of like, and then obviously we get into sort of all the blue screen sort of
Yeah.
Billy Blank stuff, and I think he said he quite enjoyed doing that stuff because it was a little bit different from what he'd done before. He's done mostly straight up kind of martial arts movies. That's what he's trained
Mhm.
to do. But then it comes into this movie where he's fighting, digital clowns on a sort of weird, sort of hazy, smoky, like sparkly sort of cyber zone, I suppose. So the film boasts not one but two of the Blanks family. So also got Michael Blanks in this film. Speaking about people that look like each other,
Mhm.
we've got essentially his sort of younger brother. We've made one of the best and most brutal fight scenes in the movie with Michael and Billy. What did you make of that fight? That's sort of it comes to sort of near the end before he fights Wolf himself. What
Yeah.
did you make of that? It's like the most brutal fight, really, isn't it?
It
Um,
is. It's one of the most memorable parts of the movie, honestly, and I think it's just because of how much love and, like, attention went into it. It's a great fight scene.
yeah, I think it's he kind of talks about it a little bit in the commentary about they were pushing each other a little bit harder to try and like because Michael I believe has no prior action experience, no prior martial arts
Really?
experience. I think he plays basketball. He said, "He's like, my brother plays basketball," and I thought he was very physically fit. And I thought, like, if I'm gonna like have this guy in, I'm gonna kind of rope him into it. Like, come on, just come and be in this movie with me, and like we'll have fun. But then I think he kind of like I don't think he realised what was sort of expected of him, and then he pushed further into it, and it was like, right, we made this amazing fight scene. It's probably one of the best fight scenes I've seen in one of these these types of movies because it's just you can sort of sort of tell this might be a bit of a sibling rivalry to kind of one up each other, and
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
we also get one of the best lines in this movie at this point. It's time for some steam cleaning, which I
Yes.
think is almost a sort of proto. Let's let off some steam, Bennett from Commando. It's very interesting.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think it's interesting when you've got kind of brothers in the scene. Obviously, speaking from experience, I don't know if do you have any brothers and sisters.
I do have an older brother.
Yeah, so I'm the older brother, but I've got a younger brother. So I'm definitely. I don't think we fought to the scale of what he would. They have done, but I'm certainly felt like that. Maybe we're destined to fight at some point in such a brutal fashion. Anyway, I
Maybe.
don't know. I hope not, because he's more physically fit than I am.
Well, there you
S-
go. Try to
so
avoid it.
actually, yeah. Matthew, me and you no harm. If you listen to this, you could definitely beat me. You are, even though you're picking up kids all the time, and I'm only started the gym again recently. So this film financed Billy Blanks to build his house. So he got a sort of an advance for this movie,
Okay.
to kind of, and it allowed him to build his kind of dream house. Then to kind of show appreciation for the amount of money he got, obviously, I think, and being in this movie, he got to have a big, massive housewarming. So we'll talk a little bit more about Billy Blanks in a second, but he's not a kind of well known guy, but he did have kind of quite famous friends. He was friends with Shaq and also brotherly Gene Simmons from Kiss came up to his party
Oh,
which I think is quite an
all
interesting
right.
mix of people. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think it's obviously quite a cool thing. Like, it's interesting to have a guy from Kiss and the legend that is Shaq and from Steel and Shaq Fu, and he plays basketball sometimes. I heard at one point,
Sometimes
but
I've heard.
yeah,
Yeah.
Shazam. He was in those things, but I'm sure I think he had dabbled in basketball and some punditry, but it's mostly Shazam. So we just talked about him just a second ago. So let's focus a little bit on our main star. So you kind of mentioned a little bit before you're sort of familiar with Billy Blanks from Tybo.
Yeah.
Were you familiar with any sort of his movies before, or was that just something you were? It's just mostly the sort of a weird aerobic exercise
I didn't
fad,
even
I
know
suppose.
that I didn't know that he did acting at all. I just knew him as like the kickboxing exercise guy because I was the perfect age for all of my friends to be obsessed with those DVDs and doing those for exercise. So,
So you actually
um,
knew people that did that with that
oh,
that that time, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I had the DVDs myself, and I did not know that Billy Blanks did other stuff.
That's amazing. So I think it's when you speak. I've spoken about people before about like Billy Blanks, and they're like the Tybo guy. It's not really the guy from Beck's No Mercy or
Right.
Talons of the Eagle. It's always like, yeah, the guy that does the bald guy that does the kickboxing thing. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see. But it's quite cool. I think these sort of cornered a niche of the sort of the fitness realm. That he's
Yes.
kind of very well known for that, and I think he's made his money mostly from that. That it's an interesting thing now. Obviously, if somebody doesn't really know much about Taibo, it's kind of like a version of kind of boxer size sort of thing, really.
Yeah.
I had a little watch of it last night, in preparation for because again I'd seen bits of it, but I think here it wasn't as big in the UK. I
Mm,
think I've seen the
yeah.
VHSs around about, and every so often I see, in a charity shop, I see the tin of Taibo and I go, I should. So, um, I have now recently started the gym, and at one point spoke about trying different action stars, gym etiquette or gym
Oh,
training, I
yeah,
suppose, in a sort
yeah.
of way. But so maybe, if people if out there want me to try Taibo on a video, I will be up for doing that. I will buy a leotard if all
Uh,
necessary.
There you go.
I'll get a nice purple, like, shiny leotard to do that. So, like, comment below or on social media and let me know if you want to see that. I see a 42-year-old man with a giant gut kind of dance about and he's doing sort of boxer size.
It's fun,
But
I'll tell you that.
I'm
You'll
sure
have
it is.
fun
It,
with
look, it
it.
looks it looks pretty like. I watched it for like 5 minutes. I thought I'm going to be fucking exhausted by that, but
Yeah,
I'm
it
going to
did,
give
it
it a
kicked your
try.
butt. Yeah.
I'll definitely get my butt. Definitely, absolutely. So we'll go back a little bit about kind of his action kind of style. What did you make him as an action star altogether? Really, obviously just
Mhm.
seeing him in this movie, does it make you want to kind of jump out and see more of his kind of oeuvre?
I definitely would. I thought he was a good actor, and I think like what he mostly had to do in this movie was showcase his fighting skills, and he
Mm,
was
mm,
great at that. But he also has like good comedic timing,
mm.
and like you said, he carried this movie on his broad shoulders. So,
Yes.
I didn't realize that he really had an acting career, and I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, it's an interesting because I think he is very well respected in terms of when you speak about action stars. He is somebody that especially the action stars of color. Like Michael J. White or
Hmm.
Wesley Snipes, even for a sense, they do kind of speak about him quite highly in terms of he's maybe not the guys maybe not in the running with those guys. And maybe Michael J. White is sort of the guy that sort of maybe took over a little bit in terms of that space, I suppose. I'm obviously not qualified to speak about of that side of action movies. Somebody maybe my friend Adam Murray would be able to speak about those types of guys. The Michael J. Whites of the world. But I think it's interesting to like he's still quite respected in that sort of that sphere in terms because he is it does have such a good martial arts background, I think.
Hmm.
So were you kind of impressed by how well he was kind of able to kind of showcase that? That maybe he's not as getting to do as much, but certainly in the fights with kind of Michael and obviously with Wolf and a little bit, sort of when he's kind of fighting the sort of students a little bit on the virtual reality, you do sort of kind of see that he does have something that we should have maybe made a bit more of a pageantry for because if he could have maybe
Absolutely.
like jumped into sort of the mainstream, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. He could hold his own among other sort of martial arts actors and celebrities. It was impressive to see him like doing all that himself. When the movie started, I wasn't sure if he was going to do that or if they were
Mm,
going to like cut away and edit it so he could have a stunt double.
yeah.
But he does, yeah, he can hold his own for sure.
I think that he does have a certain presence about him. I think in a way that maybe would you agree that like I say he could have maybe made the jump to kind of the bigger action realm. Maybe not maybe as big as Arnie, maybe not as big as Stallone or maybe Van Damme, but certainly he maybe deserved this kind of shot at the sort of the title, so to speak.
Yeah. And now that we're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, hey, wait a minute. Why
Mm.
hadn't I seen Billy Blanks in something before? Like, where did I go wrong and where did movies go wrong not giving him more to do?
I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
because
it's
he was
mm.
great.
Yeah, because I mean, it's quite prolific in terms of the kind of pocket that he's in terms of these films that I say like Talons of the Eagle and TC 2000, which will I think when you speak about because that's another technological futuristic sort of Billy Blanks movie, where again he has his top off in the poster,
Well, there you go.
which I think is very like important because like, he
Yeah,
is a body guy, and I'm a body. I'm not. I mean, look a body guy, but I appreciate a chiseled man.
absolutely.
But he does have like such as and talk about one of my favorites is King of Kickbox where he is the main heel in the movie. But he plays a great bad guy as well. He's one of these kind of guys that we could have really done a little bit more with. That we could have kind of pushed a little bit further. And I think maybe as kind of the wheel spins a little bit further, we'll maybe get to speak a bit more about him and maybe give him a bit more of a champion. That's what we're I kind of wanted to kind of do the Wheel of Cheddar for, is to give guys like Billy Blanks, guys like Gary Daniels, guys like Mark Dacascos, guys like Jeff Speakman. These guys are kind of the maybe are a little bit the also rans, but maybe could have jumped a bit future and further, and we could have
Yeah.
pulled them a little bit of the sort of obscurity and brought them into the kind of the mainframe. But sometimes they got a little bit of a chance to do. I think maybe Billy Blanks had like sort of bit parts in movies, same with like John Claude Van Damme started off, like in Breaking Two or something like that, these
Mm.
background things, before he became a massive star, he was like weird dancer number two and like in the in the in the,
Okay.
in the
I
crowd
didn't
sort of
know
thing. So
that.
yeah, he's John Claude Van Damme was in there. I think he was it Breaking Two? I think it's called. There's that sort of scene
Electric
in.
Boogaloo?
I think it might be that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He was like sort of like he's in sort of there's a scene where there's like break dance and he's sort of clapping along the leotard, like sort of like
Oh
yeah
my
man.
gosh.
So that's quite cool. So when you see the kind of the dance moves of kickboxer, he's obviously taken a little
Mhm.
bit from that. So I mean, he's a very agile guy. So things like
Mhm.
breakdance would have probably been quite quite good
Hmm.
for him. And I think he did study that a little bit as well in terms of doing the kind of the karate, but also Shotokan karate, I should say, and but also do a little bit of dance. It's very fluid still in these times. So we recently talked about kickboxing and that dancing. So yeah, he's got the moves. But I digress. So yeah, interesting. Obviously, but didn't get his chance. But he's making his money. He's made his money from um working at the Taibo and stuff. That I mean, also we talked about Jalal Murray as well. He was he's almost sort of like the sidekick to Billy Blanks in all these movies. He
Hmm.
kind of turns up in Towns of the Eagle, and I believe it's in TC 2000 again. There's always you will see kind of as we kind of move into sort of other films in the future that through Wheel of Cheddar is it. I think there's definitely a through line for all these kind of movies. They've sort of created their own little like Brat Pack almost.
Yeah,
Got these kind of
almost like an extended universe. Not really,
yeah,
but
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
like here's the people we're pulling from. Yeah.
It's kind of like a multiverse thing. I think
Yeah.
sometimes like there's like we one side you've got Dolph Lundgren, and this side we've got Matthias Hughes, and they obviously they were in a movie together, I Come in Peace, and you've got sort of like I suppose the Wesley Snipes, and you've got Billy Blanks, you've got Gary Daniels, you've got Jean Claude Van Damme, so there's almost sort of like that you want that we wanted the kind of the sort of Marvel DC crossover.
Mhm.
It's kind of like that a little bit. I think it's quite funny because you have these sort of these lower rung action stars, but they're also kind of maybe dipping in a little bit. Like, can I get in there a little bit? Can I come in at your movie and what can I play with the big boys sort of a thing? But
Yeah.
it's very interesting because these guys they do deserve a little bit more of a recognition, and they jump in some to these bigger movies, but they don't get the kind of recognition they deserve. So, speaking about that, what we'll do is we're going to talk about now another segment called the other big five. So we're going to focus on the other kind of main big stars of the time. Now, the top one is going to talk about is maybe we could argue as a big star, but also maybe a little bit less of a kind of bigger name. But so we get Chuck Norris.
Oh
He was in
yeah.
the film Top Dog. So we're talking about the dog about 1995 here. We've got Top Dog, which is a dog-based buddy cop movie with Chuck Norris. Have you ever come across that one before? It's an interesting one.
I've never seen that movie. I am familiar with Chuck Norris because
Yes,
of Walker,
the memes.
Texas Ranger.
Oh. Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
then there
again,
was a period of time in the 2000s where everybody was making Chuck Norris jokes. Like,
yes, yeah.
yeah, you remember that.
Like Chuck Norris is not scared of COVID. COVID is scared of Chuck Norris. Those kind of things,
Exactly
like that
that
sort of
sort of
thing.
structure. Yeah.
That's sort of like yeah, yeah, yeah. Chuck Norris doesn't get bitten by snakes. Snakes bite Chuck. I don't know.
Yes.
As I could put
Anything.
shite. As a
Infinite
shite one.
possibilities.
Infinite possibilities indeed. So we've also got Don the Dragon Wilson. He was in Cyber Tracker 2. He's in Grid Runners, Blood Fist 3, and he
Wow.
also we talked a lot just a second ago about kind of these action stars jumping into kind of big budget action films. We had him, Don Dragon Wilson, in Batman Forever. He plays one of the kind of the main sort of. I think he's in the gang sort of scene where, if you remember when Chris O'Donnell Robin comes into sort of he's stolen the Batmobile. He's off doing a sort of like a being a bit truant to under Bruce Wayne's sort of guidance, and then he goes off and steals the Batmobile, and he finds a sort of
Mhm.
gang, and one of the gang is John the Dragon Wilson, which is interesting. So
Oh.
you got that sort of, like I say, you've got these guys coming into sort of big budget films, and that's not even like action movies. That's like a big sort of big budget tentpole sort of
Yeah, I remember that film.
yeah. And I mean we can say what we want. We can say about Batman Forever. It's also in the Batman films are certainly on the decline at that point, but
Yeah.
I still have a lot of. I mean, you might agree with me, but Batman Forever is not that bad. I think it's pretty.
It's
I
not
think
it's
it's sort of
fun.
it's held up a little bit by Jim Carrey, really, isn't it? It's like it's
Yeah.
Val's not a bad Val Kilmer's not a bad Bruce Wayne Batman. It's very cheesy. It's very
Yeah.
cartoonish, but that's Joel Schumacher just being like very like right. I'm just gonna go into like I'm gonna go back to sort of the Adam West style of stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think I've got a lot of love for Batman Forever. Um, as much love the gritty ones that we've got now, the Nolan ones, and obviously the Batman with Twilight Boy. We've got it
He was
still.
really good though in that.
He was really good. I mean, I think a lot of people were like, Robert Pattinson, the Twilight guy from Twilight, the sparkly vampire, really
He's a
gonna
good
have him as
actor though.
Batman. And then yeah, like I mean, like, have you seen the film Good Time? That's such a
No.
it's like sort of it's another Safdie movie, Benny Safdie movie, but they made it before Uncut Gems, and it's kind of like it's all about him. He's sort of like he's sort of kind of like not a kind of crook, but he's sort of like a kind of druggy sort of guy, and his brother has sort of learning difficulties, and then he's gonna get like rehomed if he's in a certain amount of money. So it's all
Okay.
very, it's very, it's if you don't watch, if you have anxiety, because it's the same sort of things on Cut
Okay.
Gems. It's like it's very like paced and anxious and very stressful, and one thing wrong happens, and it's all like then all kind of all goes to pot, and it's all back to get fine again. You think it's okay, and it's like it's terribly, terribly. It's, as somebody with clinical anxiety, I don't really, I don't know why I watched it, but I can't recommend enough because it's just I just you do kind of see that yeah, this guy is actually a genuinely great like. If you give him a good role, a good meaty role, he does kind of jump into it. So, I mean, I don't think anyone can say that they're not looking forward to Batman 2 now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Robert Pattinson, we champion you. We are flying the flag for you. Then also another big fight, we are Mark Dacascos. We recently talked about with the film Drive with Cat Hughes. He was in Crying Freeman, which was the sort of the manga Americanized remake of that. We got Kickboxer 5. Recently talked about Kickboxer with my friend Sarah from Popcorn Chat. I mentioned that the Kickboxer sequels are pretty great. Second one, the third one, the 4 and the 5 ones I've not seen yet, but I'll check into it. But they are quite interesting. They're quite like at least the second and the third one are quite fun. Slightly different. They're a bit more like second one's very let's do Kickboxer all over again, and the third one's like yeah, like what if a Kickboxer was like Commando essentially.
Okay.
So it's quite fun that
I mean,
way.
it sounds fun.
Yeah, I think they're quite good, and the guy they have that takes over from Jean-Claude Van Damme, maybe he just handles it quite well. I think he's very interesting, and also in the film Deadly Pass. So we move on to one of my favorites, Cynthia Rothrock. She was in the film Fatal Passion, another one I've not seen yet, but Cynthia Rothrock, like one of the most leading lights of sort of martial arts at that point. To this day, just amazing person and one of my big crushes. Let's not mention that. And then we've got Diary Daniels, who again had a prolific year in the films of Heat Seeker, White Tiger, and the film Rage. So yeah, we had those again. We talked about like just the also runs of the action sphere. But guys, they've come in. Gary Daniels recently was in the Expendables, which is quite interesting. So again, another guy come into the forefront again, with the kind of playing with the big boys almost, and the big boy toy box, I suppose. So that was the other big five. So now we're going to go a little bit into your final thoughts for the movie, Ari. Does anything we've not covered that you want to speak about?
There is a lizard. It
Yes.
I don't know what kind of lizard it is. Maybe a bearded dragon.
Oh yes,
Uh
yes.
it's beautiful and it's a great actor and I was so concerned for the lizard, but I think he makes it out okay.
Yeah, Lizard does make out. He's absolutely fine in
Yeah.
the end. They've not been blown up by a rocket or kicked in the face by Billy Blanks at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a sort of strange B plot with this. There's a sort of like a crack team, like
yes.
led by Wolf Larson. We sort of like well again with Michael Blanks is one of the kind of bad guys in it.
Mhm.
One of this kind of crack team, and one of the team every time he goes on a mission has this lizard.
Yeah, he just
Just
brings it. His name is
just brings it
Spider.
along.
The guy's name is Spider. So
Yes.
Spider brings his lizard and he like kisses it and he like leaves it in a safe place while he goes and kills people and then he comes back, kisses it again, puts it on his shoulder. I was like, I am here for whatever's going on with this.
Yeah, it's like me going on a mission. Like I'm gonna go and like go into it's like somebody going into Afghanistan and taking a Pomeranian. No,
Yeah.
it's like Arnold like going into
Yeah.
like fight commando, and he's also got this like like a cat, like
Right.
a Bengal cat. Like oh, I'm just I
Just
bred my
hanging
cat.
out.
Like what? Like I'm just do stay here. I'm going to go in and go to bad these people. and that's a really bad Arnie impression. But so it's a strange. It's like a really odd this is my thing. It's almost like I think the guy must win and be like, right, you need to have a thing, you need to have a gimmick.
Right.
It's that
You need a
WWE carny
memorable
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you want your thing to be? Like we've got this guy, he wears shades all the time. Where this guy's got an eye patch. What do you want to do? I'm gonna have a lizard. Sorry. I'm gonna have a lizard. Would you mean a lizard? Like a lizard, I'm gonna take a lizard with me. Every time I go on a mission, I've got a lizard and it's like a bearded dragon and I leave it like would you bring it into the like you're gonna have a papoose? No, I'm just gonna leave it on a wall and when I come back, I assume it'll still be
He'll
there
still be there.
hasn't walked away. Like I'm just like stay, understands my commands because it knows that I love him. Because and why does it know you love him? Because I kiss him all the
Well,
time.
I kiss him.
I make sure they give him a nice smooch pre and post mission where I've killed somebody, I've killed some sort of lawyer, I killed some sort of to gain sort of leverage in the economic community for my cyber tracking virtual reality nemesis boss. So yeah, that's what it's having a strange situation. I
I
don't think
love it.
we could spend all day trying to discuss why a spider has a lizard this whole time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So I have to ask you now, Ari. We've had your Wheel of Cheddar pick. We've
Yes.
watched No Mercy. So was this film mercifully watchable, or as you expected, was it firing just plain Billy Blanks?
Oh, that's so clever, Larry. No, this was watchable. This was fun. You don't have to care too much about the plot. Just watch the fighting, listen for the sound effects, enjoy the lizard, and just have a nice time with it, you know? It's nice when a movie doesn't ask too much of you.
And what do you kind of make of these seeing the different side of the we talked about off the beginning of the podcast about speed and it's sort of a big budget
Yeah.
film when you watch
Yeah.
these lower rent. Do you think there is merit to this sort of realm of action movies?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, I'm a huge supporter of like independent film and
Mm,
DIY and just making it work. And, most of my work is in the horror space. And so, like,
yeah.
I support indie horror for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
I think something really important in movie making, especially today, is like we need more mid range movies. We've got
Yes.
giant, huge $1 billion Marvel blockbusters, and we've
Mm-hmm.
got independent stuff and
Hmm.
we need more stuff in the middle where it's just like mid budget, good box office. People go, like we used to get that in the 90s and I feel like we
Mm-hmm.
don't get it as much anymore. So I say give me more movies like Expect No Mercy.
Absolutely, I very much agree, and I'm sure that we'll come down and we'll watch another fun, that kind of very daft action movie in the future. So we're going to wind down again. So this is one we're not get you to give you sort of plugs to the creeps, but your book, Millennial Nazis, just came out just recently in this month. So can you tell a lot about the creeps, about your book and what's it all about?
Yes, absolutely. So, my book is called Millennial Nasties Analyzing a Decade of Brutal Horror Film Violence. And it's a nonfiction book where I analyze English language horror movies of the 2000s that haven't gotten much attention. A lot of what you might consider torture porn or their kind of adjacent slashers, a lot of the remakes. So, I picked 40 movies from the 2000s and I analyzed them and talked about how they fit into the themes, like the cultural themes of the time and what was going on historically. And that's just come out from Encyclopocalypse. And so it is available internationally. It's available through Amazon and other retailers for people outside the United States. So if you check out any of my socials, you can find links to it. You can find me on all the usual socials at Ari_Hellraiser.
Well, brilliant. I thank you, and thank you for coming on the podcast and letting me hear about that. Again, I've said many times on Twitter, I'm very proud to call you a friend, and very proud that you've got this amazing book. I can't wait to check it out
Oh,
and
thank you.
go watch. As something we've talked many moons ago about our love for very cheesy,
Yes.
kind of often forgotten horror movies of the 2000s. So
Yes.
that I'll really enjoy delving in there, and and hopefully we can see that up in the realms of the House of Psychotic Women. That's
Oh
again
my gosh.
like what we're going to put you up. I'm going to put you onto the pedestal of that book, because that's just something we need a little bit more of in
That's
future.
the dream. That's the
That's
dream
a
to
dream.
be
Yeah,
up there.
definitely.
But my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks, Harry, for coming on, and we'll see you again for another episode of the Wheel of Cheddar.
Thank you so much.
So, another guest has survived the Wheel of Cheddar. Thanks again to Ari for being a wonderful sport and coming back to chat about this very nonsense movie. Please do go out and grab a copy of our book wherever you buy your books, I suppose, whether that be from Bezos or from Waterstones or Barnes & Noble. Please go out, it's a wonderful read. So who will be next to face the wheel? You just need to stay tuned, and you can do that by following us on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and now Blue Sky on Your MC Podcast. You can check out the show on YouTube at Your Move Creep Pod. You can email the show with your comments and queries on yourmovecreeppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to give us a like and a comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you consume the show. It really does help us out. Thanks as usual to producer Petros over at Shed Studios. And with that, it's bye for now, and I'll see you on the next episode of Your Move Creep.
Your move, creep.